that he contacted us at the Hot Seat, and we're delighted to welcome on our program Mr. Nihal Ratnayaka, a retired irrigation engineer. Very good evening to you, Mr. Ratnayaka.
Good evening for us.
And thank you for your sort of civic sense of duty in contacting us and wanting to come and express your views and your take on these matters. So straight away, let's ask you, can this flooding be avoided? Let's talk about Kelaniya, for example.
No, flooding in general cannot be avoided, because during every heavy monsoon season you have to expect some sort of flooding.
Right.
It may be minor, it may be not minor, but you would have to expect some sort of flooding during all monsoon seasons.
How does one reduce the effects? How does one reduce, to as far as possible, how does one reduce the level of flooding?
No, actually there are only two options available in the case of a flood.
Right.
The one option is to prevent the flood waters reaching the people.
Right.
The other option is taking the people out of the flood waters.
Right.
Yeah, so those are the two options. The first option is a very expensive thing, because you will have to build some bunds and you will have to segregate.
What are we talking about? How many billions are we talking about?
Yeah, it depends on the area that has to be.
But surely, when one considers the plus points, the benefits, which is the people's lives and the safety of the people of our country, then there can be no cost comparison.
Yeah, that's right.
But many years ago, Henry Kissinger described Bangladesh as an international basket case. They were constantly flooded out, and there was calamity after calamity each and every year. Somehow, though, Bangladesh has managed to come to terms and seems to be quite adept at dealing with these things. What have they done that we are not doing?
I think their country is always prepared for floods.
So they've got a rapid response.
Yeah, the preparedness is very high, and forecasting, of course, also they adhere to the forecasting. Maybe our people don't take forecasting very seriously, because in the irrigation department itself, normally we have a system where you can forecast a flood up to 48 hours before the flood reaches Colombo. Because we had a system like that where we set up gauging stations. Whenever now, if I go, can I take a little?
Yes, of course.
When the Kelaniya River reaches the 3.5 foot level, I am dealing in feet. So when our gauge at Nagalam Street reads 3.5 feet, we immediately, there's a stage one of our preparedness. There are certain actions that we have to take. And then we immediately, there are some gauging stations, temporary gauging stations that we establish. One is at Glen Coast, that's off Avisavella, and the other is at the Hangala Rest House.
Is it too obvious to ask you whether the department shares this information with, say, the Disaster Management Ministry, or with whom does it share?
In our time, there was no disaster management.
Right. What did you all do with that information?
Our information is shared directly with the GA of Colombo.
I see.
Because he has all the people in the right places to take.
Right. So he can press the right button.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
So then when the gauge reads 4 feet, then there is a committee that meets. That is a flood forecasting committee.
Right.
And we have a specialized division in the irrigation department, known as the hydrology division. They sit together, they analyze all the data available and the past data, and they tell us that you're going to expect a minor flood or a major flood. I mean, they very correctly forecast what's going to happen. So when our gauging at Glen Coast records minor flood level, we have a certain height. When we know that water will definitely be in Colombo within 48 hours.
Right.
So we sent out a message to the Navy, to the Port Corporation, that the harbour also gets affected when the Kelaniya is in flood. Then to the GA especially, where he is the main person. Then the necessary, that was the Vellampitiya police at that time.
But in that area, like in Gotatua, for example, there's a bund there.
Yeah.
Well, when was that built?
That was after the 1957 flood.
Right. So why can't we have these bunds, or around Kelani and also?
No, we have a bund running along the. Known as the Kalani North Bund.
Right.
Running on the right bank of the Kalani River. Then we have some protection on the left bank, known as the Colombo South Bund.
Yeah.
You would have seen just below the new Kalani Bridge, you can see a bund running along. That's known as the Colombo South Bund, which is affording protection to the Colombo North area. So we have certain areas that are protected by floods.
Okay. So you've been watching these. But before we ask you that, why don't we ask you about Meter Tumula then? So you're an engineer. Why the collapse at Meter Tumula?
No,
what was wrong?
That is, of course, you have to expect that with the soil that is underneath. I think
that's peat.
Peat, that's right. That Mr. Kapila Danayaka from the university, I think he got it spot on when he said that. I myself have experienced that in 1976, just before the Non-Aligned Conference, when I was put in charge of the access road to the new bridge for the improvement of the highways at that time.
Yeah.
I had to do some excavations around Ururat for some structure. And then when I dug up, I found the old road. The old road 3 feet below the existing road. Then, of course, and some piles of rubble above that. So then I went to our soils people and then had a discussion with them. They said, okay, they had a look. They said the situation that the old road has sunk.
Sunk because of the peat?
Because of the peat situation and the weight of the vehicle. It keeps sealing and the sides come up. So even now, if you have a look around there, there's a school that was built some time back. You can see the buildings of the school are about 2-3 feet below the existing road level now. So peat, that's one.
So that was to be expected.
If you are building on peat, there's only a certain load that it can take, and beyond that it moves out.
Right. So did we need the expertise from overseas to come here and tell us this?
No, I don't think. Our people, I think university people got it correct when they said that peat, and we ourselves have seen how peat behaves. And if you, for that matter, if you just 500 meters away, you get massive farm of oil tanks.
Let's talk about the oil tanks in a moment. We'll go for a small break. Don't go away. After all, this is the Hot Seat, and we help you stay connected. And welcome back to the Hot Seat. In the Hot Seat today, a member of the public who called us and wanted to share his strong views on the recent weather-related incidents in our country. And that's Mr. Niyal Ratnayaka. Again, welcome on to the Hot Seat. Now then, Meter Tumula, you said it is all peaty land, and peat, the nature of it moves. So you need to expect certain movement, and you need to take that into account when building foundations and so on.
That's right,
500 odd meters away are the gas storage.
Gas storage. Plus the oil tanks.
The oil tanks. So what happens? How come they haven't collapsed?
That they have done a bit of engineering, because their tanks are, for your information, they store 10,000 metric tons.
Right. So they're not walking about going away anywhere.
They have done a bit of engineering, and
so the engineers have fixed the problem.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. We didn't need any Japanese then, did we?
Definitely, we don't need.
No. Right. So there you go. So just a little bit off Meter Tumula, the problem of the peaty land doesn't need to be so intense if you address it properly.
But
what about the waterways? All the waterways around Meter Tumula is all sort of clogged up.
That definitely we have to open them up, and
that's another.
That's a problem that has been created by the people around, I think.
Right. Now, you've been watching our programs, which is why you felt strongly enough to have contacted us. And we encourage our viewers to do that. If you want to be considered to come on one of our programs and talk about a matter of some national interest, then you can do so. You can contact us at Newsfirst.lk, coming up on your screen shortly. You were incensed enough to call us. You're here. You took issue with two statements. One last year, actually, when a representative from the ministry told us about a big pumping station project, and a couple of weeks ago, and somebody was on our program who told us about building micro tunnels underneath. I think they said 10 feet underground tunnels. Your issue with the pumping station is you raised the question, where will the water be pumped to?
Yeah.
So what's the answer?
Yeah, I'm also fascinated because, I mean, during a flood, I mean, where are they going? Only way you can do it is to pump it into the sea.
Yeah.
So from Colonna to the sea, I just can't see.
Unless it goes back into the
river. Pumping water back into the Kalani River won't solve your problem, because that water is going to flood you back again.
Further down.
Yeah.
Further down somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere further down, yeah.
Right.
So only way is to get rid of the water is to pump it into the sea, but I can't imagine how such a setup.
What would we need? Big pipeline?
Yeah, very, very large pipelines compared to.
So it's simply not possible?
It doesn't look very feasible to me.
Right. It doesn't look feasible in terms of cost, in terms of the environment? What?
Cost plus the work involved and thing. I mean, it's not imaginable, you know.
Right. So you say that this pumping station that's planned isn't going to...
Yeah, I don't know the proper... You know, because, I mean, you'll have to first feed that amount of water that supposed to be that pump station is designed to pump out some massive quantity of water.
So you first of all...
you first of all you have to direct that amount of water into the pump house. I just can't imagine the present canal system...
coping with that.
That amount of water to be sent at that speed to them.
And in your view, are the canals and rivers being cleaned enough? Are they being looked after enough?
Normally, when we were handling them, there were regular maintenance, and that part of it is done.
Right.
Now, my issue I feel is the capacity of our canals are not sufficient, especially in the city of Colombo.
So, what about the suggestion of trapping the water further up in terms of reservoirs and so on? After all, it looks like what the kings in the past wanted to do is still very much what we have to do today, build reservoirs and so on.
During the time I joined the irrigation department, I remember there was a project where the water of the Kalani River was to be diverted, I mean a reservoir built somewhere around Ruwanwala, and that water collected there and to be diverted to the northwestern province. But that project never...
That didn't come to pass.
That would have solved a lot of problems of flooding.
So that was to build a reservoir?
Somewhere around Ruwanwala area.
Right.
And then take that water over to the NWP, northwestern province.
What about in... leave Ruwanwala on one side, and if we focus our attention on the property that is now known as the water's edge, but with all those lakes and so on, is that the kind of solution? Is that one of the solutions?
Yes, that even formerly that part of the marsh was
meant for that.
Meant for actually it's known as a detention area.
Right.
All rainwater is collected, and then until it flows out through our canals through the Vellavata Canal to the sea. I mean, those provide a temporary detention. And I think now we have got some lakes created around port area. They are serving their purpose, I think.
Right. And do you think that the government should, we'll ask you, what do you think? What should be happening? What is your frustration, and so how will your frustration be addressed?
No, my main problem for us is why we lose so much of lives.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I don't know, it's criminal. No, I mean, in this age when communication is at such a high level, and all that we are, and you know, as you said, the storm that we had only part of the storm. The main brunt of it was faced by Bangladesh, and they are supposed to have only lost about 6 lives. If I'm correct, I don't know.
Even that small amount is too much.
Yeah, but I mean, with facing such a big storm right in their face, here we have only just had the side effects of it, and here we are losing. I mean, it's a crime. I mean, I don't know. It's a crime, you know.
It's a crime.
It's a crime. People's lives are.
We'll take another short break and come right back. Don't go away. After all, this is the Hot Seat. And welcome back to the Hot Seat. Our guest tonight is Mr. Nihal Ratnayake, member of the public, retired irrigation engineer. Mr. Ratnayake, what can be done about preventing flooding of the Kelani, and what's preventive mitigation? What
one way of preventing it, as you earlier said, to divert the water somewhere.
To some holding place, like a
reservoir, and maybe to some area that will need the water, like the NWP or some place. The other one is to, I mean, reforestation also helps, because, you know, it prevents water running.
So there's no quick fixes for this?
No quick fixes. Reforestation is one where you can develop the catchment area with heavy forest, so that the runoff of the water doesn't come so fast into the river flow.
So we must really be more and more mindful of our environment.
As I said earlier, and our only option here is to take the people away from the flood.
Yeah.
I mean, we are not lucky to prevent the flood.
You spoke earlier about the loss of life. This is so sad and so worrisome and so stressful, and affects friends, family, future.
Tragic, actually.
It's tragic. What do they do in other countries, like Bangladesh?
Well, I think that they have a very advanced system of forecasting, and as I said, removing the people from the flood
is the other.
Because they can't prevent the flood waters reaching them, because they are actually in the flood plain. The Philippines are regularly.
So they must withdraw any planning permissions given and so on.
Apart from that, and their people are always moved into safer areas and until the flood.
And the flooding or the inundation of Colombo city, what are the causes? What are the solutions? Is it the same thing?
In the Colombo city, it's not flooding. It's actually a drainage problem.
Oh, it's a drainage problem.
Yeah, because we had to cope up with the rainwater that is received, and then.
Do we need more drains?
Yeah, we need a system where the water can be discharged into the sea quickly.
Right. And you say these sort of micro tunnels that they're planning for Colombo is not really the answer.
I also can't imagine, because when you study the ground levels around Colombo.
What's the mean sea level of Colombo is on?
Say around Boral, it's about 5 feet above sea level.
Right.
And if you take BMS8, it's about 4 feet.
Okay. So it's not very high off the
mark. Not very high off, how you can drain it out through.
Right. And then, Mr. Ratnayake, let's ask you, what's the commitment of the public service, the state of the public service? Do you think that there's a real commitment to be, instead of being reactive, to be proactive?
I see a very, as you say, they are not at all proactive. Because I mean, they just don't take things so seriously. You know, in case of flood in our time, I mean, there was a line of action.
Right.
Where there are certain laid out. There's a thing called a standing order.
Right.
The standing order comes into operation as soon as the Kalani River reaches 3.5 feet.
Right.
And then there's a row of...
so even if you can't really avoid it,
you can at least warn the public.
Yes.
Yeah. And you can give them sufficient time to move into safe areas.
Yes, and you'll be able to...
prevent loss of life.
Yes, and take the maximum preventive measures.
Definitely.
And so that when reaction is needed, you're all game set and ready to...
Now there are much more state agencies involved in this, like the disaster management, and I don't see any action that was better than what it was.
Frankly speaking, is it a question of too many cooks spoil the broth?
It's possible, because I know in Sinhala there is a saying that Andi hat denage kande haliya.
Right.
Where everyone expects the other one to do the job.
Right.
So,
and that's the problem.
Yeah, because in the good old days, you report to the GA and GA knows what to do.
Right. And now, because you've got so many agencies, you don't know what to do anyway.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that's one of the reasons. And the people are taking it so lightly.
The people, the officials, you mean?
No, officials, plus even when a warning goes out, it's not so serious, because, I mean, normally, when a warning goes out from a person like the GA, it's taken very seriously in the past.
Right.
Or maybe the AGA of the area, or, I mean...
So do you think the people in these areas prone to consistent flooding year in, year out, do you think they've got a bit sort of blasé about this thing?
It's possible.
But not blasé because they've got no other choice, because the government's not done anything about it. Now then, Mr. Ratnayake, from a point of view of the public, how do you feel? Do you feel there's a change? Do you feel that you are living in an age where change is happening?
We were expecting a big change, but that is not happening at the moment.
And what concerns you most?
All matters, especially running of the country.
Right. So if I give you, is it the good governance issues? Is it the corruption? Is it the failure to address the corruption from the past? Is it the slowness of the legal system? Are these what to you would be the most?
The only change that has really come about is the little freedom that we have to express our feelings.
Which is why
I am speaking to you at the moment.
Which is why I'm speaking to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Apart from that, other main problems are not addressed at all.
So the people's aspirations, the people's problems have all been forgotten.
I, as a person, I travel around a lot because with my contract work.
Yeah.
And wherever I speak, they are not very happy about what has happened, because the promises are so large. I mean,
so they've overpromised and
under-delivered. Definitely, and there's no delivery on the promises.
There's no delivery.
Yeah, absolutely no delivery. Plus, as you say, the corruption is, of course, unimaginable.
That worries you?
Yeah, definitely it worries me, because it's our country.
Does it make you sad?
Definitely. If I was a younger person, I would have definitely found a job somewhere and maybe left this country. I always advise my children, this is no country to be living around, because it's such a beautiful country, and you feel like crying when you go out. What a beautiful country we have. And then it's all a mess now.
That's very sad.
Yeah, very sad.
But it's very encouraging that as a member of the public, you've made that call, you've contacted us, and you're here. And we'd like to thank you very much for that. And we hope that you will continue to activate and urge those in power to be more accountable to the people. Niyal Ratnayake, thank you very much for being in the hot seat.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you, and
all the best to you.
We'll see you again on our network sometime. And that's it from the hot seat this week. We'll see you again the next time, back at 9:30 on Thursday, straight after the news. Take care. Good night.